Hi, so in this video we're going to cover shipping to Amazon FBA from China or internationally. It's very simple to do it from the US. It's very cheap. You can use an Amazon partner carrier if you're shipping to Amazon US from the US. It's very easy. If you're shipping to other countries other than the US, e.g. Europe, this process is the same, whether you're shipping from America to Europe or China to Europe or China to the USA. It's pretty much the same thing. And so your two main options really are air freight. First of all, air freight is generally considered good for small, light shipments, like low volume. Like if you're selling something like a mobile phone case, iPad case, small, lightweight items, a pack of cards, maybe a t-shirt. It's not too bulky, because if you've got 1,000 of them, they don't take up too much space, and so the overall cost isn't going to be too bad. Air freight's generally considered expensive, especially when it comes to bulky items, bulky and heavy items. If it's small and light, air freight might actually be cheaper than shipping it by sea. I found it cheaper when I was doing mobile phone screen protectors and mobile phone cases before. It worked out a lot less to just air freight it, even though air freight costs a lot more per kilogram than sea freight does. So the next option, which I just mentioned, is sea freight, sticking it on a boat. So air freight, you can expect things to take anywhere from 4 to 5 days, right up to 10 days, 11 days to arrive at the destination, because there's handling times, there's trucking and delivery times as well. And sea freight, you can looking at anywhere from 30 days up to 45, 50 days. And with all of the blockages at the port that are currently going on, it's actually much longer than that. It's unknown how long it's going to take, but that's a temporary problem that will resolve itself. And so sea freight's generally better for larger, bulkier items. If you're selling something like an armchair, if you're selling something like a speaker, if you're selling something like a yoga mat, they're kind of bulky, large items. And so by air freight, these things are going to be very, very expensive. Whereas sea freight, you're buying, say, a 20-foot or 40-foot container, you'll generally save money. And I'll cover how to get quotes and prices, etc. below a little later. But just as a general rule, really, air freight kind of small, light, otherwise it's expensive. Sea freight, bulky items, but it's much slower. But what you can do, and I recommend it, is you can always split shipments. So you can put 200 units via air freight and the rest by sea if you're running low on inventory or you want to get moving faster. There's no fixed rules as to how to do it. You've just got to get quotes for everything and then compare and decide what makes sense for your business and your product. So we talked about speed. Air freight, much faster. Sea freight, much slower. And the way to sometimes deal with stockouts is to pay for the air freight and get the product there faster. Air freight might even be cheaper for you, so there's something definitely to look into. Next, cost. Okay, so the way it's calculated for air freight is by both the weight and the volume. If it's very heavy but very small, it's still going to be as expensive as if it was a little bit bigger but light. So it's a volumetric weight calculation, and you can find that anywhere on Google if you want to estimate it. But your freight forwarder, your air freight company, will give you the price and give you the cost as well once you give them the exact details of your product, because it changes from product to product too. If you have a hazardous product, if you have special items, the prices can go up too. Size and weight. So really, when you're creating your product, if you want to save costs in inventory, shipping, Amazon warehouse fees, FBA fees, you've got to keep the size and weight of your product to the minimal possible. I know that's not always possible, but if there's a way to shave out a couple of 100 grams off a 3 kilogram item, 10%, you might end up saving 5-6% in shipping costs. You might end up saving another 5-6% in storage and freight costs and FBA costs. So it all adds up. So look at your product and think of ways of, how can I pack this better? How can I reduce the size? How can I make it foldable? How can I make it lighter? And you might find ways to shave 5 to 10% of the eventual shipping and also inventory costs. And with the way Amazon's going now, it's limiting how much stock you can keep in Amazon FBA. Before, most people would just ship their 5,000 units from China straight into the Amazon warehouse. They have 3 or 4, 5, 6 months of stock, and that's it, done. They didn't have to think about it. But Amazon's greatly reduced how much stock you can hold in Amazon itself. With the IPI score, which we have a video on, and long-term storage fees, and just in general, you can't really have much more than, say, 4 to 6 weeks of stock in Amazon. So you're forced to have your own warehouse. And that means finding a Amazon prep warehouse. It doesn't mean that they have to ship out one by one your orders. It's just somewhere to put your products and then ship 100 or 200 units at a time into Amazon or as you need them. So one of the key things to remember before shipping is to do some quality control of your product. And what I mean is a third-party final inspection of the product, AQL, so that you basically know that when it leaves the factory that you're getting what you ordered. And even if you've ordered from the factory for 2 years and you've done 10 shipments, I still recommend checking every shipment, because one messed up shipment is going to cost you potentially your product, your business, everything. It's much better to catch the issue at the factory so it can be fixed in a few days and then shipped, rather than it's shipped, it's put on a boat, it gets to Amazon, customers report a quality issue, you've then got to ship back thousands of units out of Amazon to your factory or just throw them away. That's a much, much worse scenario. So for peace of mind and to know that your product is good quality, always do a QC, quality control inspection, before it leaves the factory and ships. The other thing a lot of people miss is that you might need special certificates to ship certain products. For the EU, CE certificates, ROS certificates, there can be all kinds of different certification needed depending on the product. So before you actually place your order for the product, or if you've already done that, then the next thing is to reach out to the freight forwarders, tell them the item, and try to find out if there's any certification needed. Your factory should be able to do it. That's why I always recommend, when looking for a factory, that they've shipped your type of product, say mobile phone cases, to your market, USA and UK, before, because then that way you know that they had the experience of dealing with the shipping paperwork too, which is important. So certification, you might need that for your freight forwarders as well. Next thing is duties and taxes, and this varies by product with the HS code. You can look it up, you can ask your freight forwarder to suggest some, and then go with what makes the most sense. I wouldn't try to cut out too many duties and taxes. Just pay what's fair and reasonable. Don't try to push it too much. Again, people do that, but if you're caught once, it causes you so much more grief than if you just do it right the first time and just pay the 3% or 4%, whatever it happens to be, for your product, instead of trying to skimp a percent or two and risking your business. Just play the long game. Okay, freight forwarders. So a freight forwarder is basically an independent company that will help you arrange from your manufacturer to Amazon's warehouse all of the different logistic aspects. And usually your products, your boxes, will go through 6 or 7 different hands and different companies before it arrives at Amazon. By that I mean, so someone's picking it up from the factory. There's a trucking company. They're delivering it to a warehouse, and that warehouse might just be a warehouse company. That warehouse is then delivering it to the port. That could be a separate company. Then it's going internationally by boat or via air freight, which is another company. Arrives in the US, and that could be another receiving company. It's then arranged by truck to go to Amazon or your warehouse. That could be a totally separate company. So freight forwarders are really kind of an agent pulling together and pulling all the strings to orchestrate everything. And usually these people are their partners. They've worked with them a long time. Some of the parts of the supply chain will be their own warehouses or their own trucks, but usually they're outsourcing and contracting those things too. So it's just something to be aware of. And the best way to get freight forwarders and quotes: 1, ask your factory, ask them to give you a pricing. 2, find freight forwarders that are both in your region, have offices where you are, offices where the product's being delivered to, and offices near where the product is being made. So if you're in the UK selling in Amazon US, you might want to forward of offices in the UK, US, and also China. Why? Because if you're dealing with a freight forwarder that only has an office in the US, for example, and they don't have local representation in China, it just makes things more complicated and probably more expensive because they're going through someone else too. It's just much better to deal with a small, medium company that has 2 or 3 offices at least, that then you know that they're handling everything from A to Z and they're experts on this particular product, and we're dealing with the markets that you're dealing with too. And you can Google that to find some. Type in your town or your state and the place in China where it's made, like Guangdong province or wherever it's coming from. And usually Google will bring the results to the top as to who might be good. Reach out to 5 to 10 forwarders and get some pricing. They're all keen on new customers, so it shouldn't be too hard to get some quotes. And then the other thing you need to remember is labels, Amazon labels. I forgot to mention earlier, but that's relatively simple to do once you set up the shipment in Amazon, and there's tons of videos on YouTube as to how to manually go through and set up the shipment. The process has changed recently, but it's still relatively simple, and you just need to make sure to ask your factory to put the labels on the cartons in the correct order. And I just wanted to say on freight forwarders, I just wanted to mention that the fees are not very transparent, in the sense that you're getting charged a fee for the container, you're getting charged a fee for it arriving, you're getting charged for fees for it going from the factory to the port, you're getting charged fees for all kinds of different things, and they all have very different fees, so it's very hard to compare. So I would give them an exact shipment, so 100 boxes, these are the size of boxes, this is the product, this is the weight, and then use that and ask them to give you a total number. Then you can compare, because sometimes they break down the price, like, you know, $17 per CBM for this, $8 landing fee, $4 handling fee per box, and you don't really know what you're going to be paying. So it's much better to make sure that's clear and transparent up front. Are you looking to grow your Amazon business? Zillionaire is the best Amazon metrics software. It has dozens of great features, including real-time profit and loss, inventory management, Amazon PPC ad optimization, custom dashboards, and much, much more. Head on over to zillionaire.com and sign up today. The link is in the description below.